In sports, the scoreboard doesn't tell the full story, but Netflix does. Stories about dads who happen to be world-class quarterbacks and a battle for the heart, soul, and direction of the multi-billion-dollar business of F1. Whether you're a diehard fan or you're brand new, Netflix has the stories for every type of fan. You can watch these incredible sports stories like Quarterback, F1 Drive to Survive, Untold, and many more now on Netflix.
Welcome to the Scarlet Supporters Pembrokeshire podcast. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Westerer is Besterer podcast with me, Lee G, and Big M. How's it going, Mart? How's things?
I'm good. I've had a bit of a nightmare 24 hours with a car and the baby coming out in chicken pox. But other than that, I'm good. How about you?
Yeah, and it's New Year, isn't it? It's the whole kind of, let's get all the infections. Everyone I've spoken to so far, going back to work and all of that, is how was Chris? Oh, so-and-so's got this, so-and-so's got that. And I'm the same with the boys got an infection. So you're like, oh, it's just one of those. I think everybody catches it over Christmas and it all just comes out. And then in New Year, it's one of those things. So you're not alone, mate. You're not alone. So it's not though, is it? It's not good to know at all. It's just like everybody else's crap as well.
I'll be honest, it's really annoying because my 5-year-old had chicken pox just before Christmas, and we literally we stuck them both together hoping she'd get it, and she waited a bloody fortnight before it came out. Literally the day she goes back to nursery.
Yeah. It's awkward when they go back to nursery, and it's because the excitement of seeing your friends after Christmas, everybody's like, yay, and they're all hugging and all that kind of stuff. I'm glad I'm out of those days, mate. I'm glad I'm out of those. I tell you what was annoying, right? So how annoying is this? So dropped my girl to hockey last night. So went one way to hockey, came back, fine, no problems at all. Went to collect her from hockey. An hour later, 3 sets of roadworks in between my house and the hockey pitch, which is like a mile and a half away. And I'm like, these were not here when I dropped her off. Yeah, I don't understand. Why do you decide to put them all here at the same time? You know, there was obviously something happening last night. Drove me nuts.
I can see you tearing up, mate. It must have been really hard.
Yeah, I dealt with it in a very level, calm-headed kind of way, as you can imagine. I wasn't sitting there screaming at a traffic light. What the hell are you doing? You at the traffic light. There we go. Anyway, so last Saturday, let's talk rugby. Let's talk last Saturday. Yay! How good was it? I mean, how good was that game? Just as a game, regardless of us winning, how good was the game?
It was an awesome watch. It's making me want to go to away games again. So you know, it says something. So I think I've probably only been to 3 or 4 in my entire life of away games, and they've always been the Ospreys Boxing Day one. So for me, don't want to be driving around all times of the year to different away games. It says there's got to be something there, and it was just outstanding. Some of the players, some of the moves we saw were just outstanding from both sides.
Yeah, and I think that's what kind of made it. Usually, you expect a derby game to be quite tight, quite tense, quite. You know, like the Cardiff game earlier in the season was one mistake, one break, and that was it. That was a difference between the sides. You know, there wasn't a lot between us. It was a bit attritional, and the Dragons game was certainly very attritional in that sense. You know, it was an intense game. So to see both sides, you know, kind of cutting loose quite early. We did cut loose quite early. You could see it from the start. You know, Blacker's try was 10 minutes in, something like that, 12 minutes in, and that was a kickable penalty, you know, definitely. We're inside their 22, so for him to tap and go from there kind of showed the intent.
Yeah, it's not just that. You've got to give him a lot of credit, because it wasn't as simple as tap and run over the line. He had to hop over to a Piloto's legs, cut back on an angle, and it looked like 3 forwards. He dived into it to go over the try line. So you've got to have some balls to do that.
Yeah, and I thought just we in the past we've kind of expected that from scrum halves. We've that's always been a thing that Scarlets have done with that quick tap and go penalty, has been, where we've built a lot of good play from, and it does keep the opposition a little bit. Yeah, and I mean, normally the whistle goes, and as a forward, when that whistle goes for a penalty or whatever, you're a bit like, okay, I've got a bit of a break now. I've got a bit of I can sit down for 30 seconds.
Oh, I can tell you were never a forward, because that is totally not at all.
It is so. Right, okay, it's going to be a kick to the corner or whatever, or a penalty. So you do kind of switch off for a couple of seconds. And
yeah, I mean, I do understand it. That close to the line, it was quite congested. For him to do that, it was a massive risk, and it did pay off, thankfully.
Yeah, because if he hadn't have gone over, oof, you can imagine the conversation that would have been.
Yeah,
but
no one was with him. No one knew what was happening.
No, and I think that was the good thing. I think everybody just went, "Oh, that's going over," and he just went bang. And like I say, with 5 players, he ran through 5 players, took a couple with him over the line, and half of the Cardiff forwards who just stood there going, "What's happened?" Didn't have the time to react. So, yeah, I loved that try. I thought that was a cracking try, but then it just kept coming. It was from then on. It was bang, bang, bang. So. What did you make of, which was the try after that? Was it Jonathan Davis' try? The one in the corner, yeah. So what did you make of McNichol's?
Wow, I mean, okay, we've seen loads of wingers, fullbacks, try that sort of thing, the dive in, try in the corner. But still, every time you see it, it's amazing. I mean, the ball in one hand, to keep that control. I mean, it does take a high level of skill. I mean, people, okay, I know everyone's held a rugby ball, but, once you get to a certain age, you don't touch it, you forget the size of them. And to hold a ball in one hand and keep control of it, it's not an easy task. Like, I know if you're 6'4", name is Sam Lousy off a feet, that it's quite easy. But for the common person, it's quite difficult. So the finishing skill involved there was phenomenal, and the build-up play was quite nice as well. So, a lot of good hands just to get it out to him.
And I thought that was the difference in that first half. Certainly, the first 30 minutes was we just blew Cardiff away, because there was very little in the way of contact, and what contact there was it was quick, it was sharp, it was aggressive, and then the ball was gone. Their defence just didn't have any time at all to set and do anything. And any time Thomas Young came near a ruck, he had 2 players on him. So, we definitely targeted him. And what that did was that freed up Dan Davis to just kind of run riot. And, very different kind of player, but an aggressive runner. You forget how much of an aggressive runner he is with the ball in hand,
I mean, Dan Davis, since he made his first start appearance a few years ago, he has changed massively. Like, he first came in, I think he had a run of 3 or 4 games, and he was making turnovers for fun, but he was probably going for 12, 15 attempts and taking maybe 3 or 4. So he was getting hit off the ball a lot. And I remember either that pre-season or the year after, he bulked up a hell of a lot. And you can see that on him now. If you could get a look of what he was like his first appearances to now, I mean, it looks as though he's doubled in size. He looks an animal compared. They look like different people, and it's improved his carrying massively. And you could just watch that game, just watch his few runs. I know he didn't make, gargantuan meters every time, but you could just see the basics in everyone, actually. The pump in the legs after contact, they're spinning out of the tackles. It was just lovely to see.
I think that was the bit for me with Dan Davis. Let's say he didn't make massive yards, but when he was taking the ball on, he was taking 2 or 3 players out, and he was running into space, drawing players in, and then creating space for others. And sometimes that gets kind of overlooked. People don't look at who makes the space, so they look at who runs into the space, sort of a thing. But yeah, I just thought, I was talking after the game, and we could have picked, 10 players for man of the match. And we've said this before, that there's no real standout person. There's no real standout player for the Scarlets this year. Do you know what I mean? We're not relying on 1 or 2 people to do all the work. It's much more of a team kind of mentality change, I think, on that. Would you agree?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, obviously you get some games where, someone, what are we, like 12 games in, something like that. And you do see it sometimes, one player's putting in a bit more than others. But vast majority of time, it's not a big difference. And obviously, you always rely on those moments of magic. Everyone likes to see those moments where just one player just does something and it just sparks the whole game. And those are still happening, like Tuipulotu's run for the 3rd try. That's something we need to come on to. But there seems to be a sort of higher set standard this season. I know we haven't had the best of results, as in end results, but our performances, barring maybe 2, maybe 3 games, have been exceptional. And it's literally just the result on the scoreboard that's been the issue.
Yeah, so I mean, I was pleased for Tuipulotu as well, because when you've got someone like Calmafoni in front of you to get into the side, it is a bit of a not disheartening, but you've got to wait for something. You've got to wait for an injury, or you've got to wait for a suspension, or you've got to wait for him to have a rest or whatever. So for him to come in and play, it wasn't like this is his first start of the season. It didn't feel like that when he was on I know he's had a couple of 10 minutes at the end of the game here, there, and everywhere, but it felt like he'd come of age on Saturday, Tuipulotu, and
I can 100% get behind that. It's like, obviously everyone's going to focus on that one big barnstorming run off the kickoff. But there was so many times during the game, some of the hits he was putting in, and he was constant while he was on the pitch. Every time, like I said earlier, the pumping of the legs, just having that drive, and you could see it in him practically every single time. He wanted more. And obviously, we spoke last week, and I was saying, Calmafoni is going to be out for a while. This is his chance. And fair play to the boy. He has stepped up massively. I mean, he could have played probably 80% of that level, and we would have gone, that was a good performance from him.
Yeah. And I hope he backs it up now with another couple of games of similar kind of performances. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, he's going to be number 8 for Friday night against the Cheetahs. But Calmafoni's ban ends then, which, I'm happy about, but I'm not so happy for the player, for Tuipulotu, because he's having a challenge. But I hope he doesn't have to keep the shirt for the Bayonne game. I really do.
Well, if we get we will talk about the Cheetahs game later, but bonus point win, and we qualify anyway. So if we rock up a bonus point win, there's no point in bringing Calmafoni back for the Bayonne game. Do you know what I mean? We may as well roll a couple of dice and bring a couple of players through. So, but
I do understand that, but with the way it works in the Challenge Cup now, with teams from the Heineken dropping down,
they drop down, and
I'm not sure how the seedings work. I'm sure Peel and all that will know exactly the scenarios. So it probably will end up be better off going at least 90% fully loaded out to Bayonne, just to try and secure that, if not top spot in the pool, the second, just so we can guarantee on missing out on one of the Heineken teams and a home quarter final. Or is it round of 16 or quarter final?
I think there's another round and then it's quarter final because the sides that drop down, isn't it?
I think as well, if we finish first in the pool, then we're guaranteed home fixtures all the way to the final.
Which would be
nice. So that would be nice.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that.
Nice.
We'll talk about that later. But so the third try then. So go back to Saturday. Was Jonathan Davies offside?
100%. There's no way you can say he wasn't offside. You can look from it from lots of angles. You can even look from the back with the shadows, from the side. You can see he's offside. And I mean, I'm not arguing against it, just because you got to take what you get. But I thought I heard immediately over the ref comm, yeah, he's offside. And then from to go through it all and to award it, it was like, oh, fair enough. One's gone for us.
And I think that was it. What they said over the mic was looking for convincing evidence. And I just
clear and obvious, I think, were the words they used.
And I think from the angles, the camera angles, there was always a debate about the angle that they were looking at. Do you know what I mean? And I think that was the difference. So that was why it got given, was because the gut feeling was he was onside. So you need to be 100% convinced that it's not to not give that try. So I was in the 50-50 club on that one. I was very much
that's one-eyed.
Well, yeah, it is, but that's why I do a Scarlet supporters one, isn't it?
I'm not afraid to admit when we've had a rubber the green light. I mean, we haven't had it very often this season, but we clearly did for that try.
Well, that's what that's how I justified it to myself after. I thought, you know what, if it's a 50-50 call that's gone our way, that's probably the second or third one in total out of about 40 odd this year that's gone our way. So I think we probably did it. But I think also it's when you put it into the referee's head, that we're the ones playing at that point of the game, we were the ones playing the attack in rugby. We were the ones just chucking the ball, because Patch, and we've spoken about this before, he's deceptively quick. So when he makes that break and he glides through that centre, he looks like he's jogging. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't look like there's a lot of pace on him because of the length of his leg and the length of his stride. And he just leaves him for dead. And for me, seeing Patch back doing those kind of things was, it reminded me of a couple of years ago when everything he touched turned to gold, And
there was a lot going on at the start of the season where Patchell was, effectively third choice because, Dinky Dan Jones was being picked on the bench, and then he was picked for the Leinster game ahead of Patchell. So I think he has been he's always struggled with injury, I think, for the last 2.5, 3 years. And I think that was sort of a similar story where he was always around 70%, but he's basically been thrust into it now, and he's found some match fitness and he's found some form, which I don't know if it's going to be great for us overall, especially with the Six Nations coming. And I wouldn't be surprised if he backs up, the last couple of performances on Friday night. Then I wouldn't be surprised to see him being, boosted back into the Six Nations squad. And sadly, I could probably see Costello going with him. So that leaves us down to just one fly half.
Yeah, it's the situation we've been in so many times where, Gareth Davis and Kieran Hardy, and now we're in a position where we got Kieran Hardy and Blacker, so.
I'll be honest, I think we have to go back a decade to find a time where we didn't have two scrum halves in the Welsh squad. And when we've had Aled Davis, Rodri Williams in this time as well. And it always seems to be our scrum halves that go.
Yeah, and I think that's just the way we've always played the game, has been based around, a strong dynamic 8, 9, 10 kind of combination. But yeah, I mean, for me on Saturday, when we got to the end of that third try, I thought, oh, this is it now. A bonus try before half time. This is the stuff of dreams, isn't it? But Cardiff came back strong. They really came back strong. And I was quite pleased that they did come back and challenged us, because the boys stuck at it. And if we'd have walked over that game, it would have been, Cardiff had an off day, Cardiff went here, Cardiff came back, and Cardiff were competitive, and we held them, and we came out on top. So, nobody can say that was an easy game, an easy walkover game,
Yeah. I mean, if we look at that game on a whole, and if we try to look at the negatives, obviously there were some negatives in the scrum, which we might get onto. It depends on how you were feeling. And the decision at the end of the game to kick the ball to touch and not to go for the 3 points with the wind behind us, which would have taken the bonus point away from Cardiff. I think that's the only things that I'm annoyed at.
Well, I can kind of see both sides of the kick at the end of the game, because if it comes back off the posts, or, you need to make, at the bare minimum, you need to make sure it goes dead. Yeah. And then I think they were questioning with the referee, if it goes dead, if we miss it and it goes dead, do they then get a chance to restart? And then I think that was the decision. I think she said, yes, there'd be a restart if you kicked it, because the original penalty was before 80 minutes, before the clock went red. So that's why a tap and a kick. That was it. I think, I might be wrong, but I think that's what they were talking about. Where if we miss it, Cardiff get a chance to restart, and it just takes a knock on or something. I'm surprised that, but from the drop out behind your own goal line, and you've got 90 meters or 85 meters, 95 meters to play in, how somebody hasn't found a little bit of space to chip a ball into. Do you know what I mean? Why everybody kicks it long and kicks it 50 meters when you could? I think you've only got to get it over the line.
That is something that I struggle with when I watch rugby. It's because there's only 3 types of kick. You either kick it out, you dink it over, or you kick to find space. And it seems to be we just kick to each other a lot of the time. And there's not enough of these little dinks in behind, and you can clearly see the space there, for probably about 60 minutes of the game, where it's so structured and there's just no one in that gap. There's no sweeper. And I'm surprised that we not just us, but everybody doesn't use it a lot more.
So I think that ticks off the end of the game. So before we talk about scrummaging, where we were poor in the scrummage, so let's talk about head contact and players on the pitch. So, do you want to start on that one?
I have no idea how Timani stayed on that pitch. I mean, I'll give him a little bit of favoritism, because we did have his big brother with us for a few years. But honest to God, I don't understand how Joy came to the decision, and she did. There's mitigation because he's dropped. There's not a significant drop from the time where he dips to make the tackle. So, and you can clearly see it's maybe about an inch, if that he moves. And the shoulder's so hard into the head. I am so happy that Joe Roberts came out of it and is fine. But I just really don't understand how you can miss that. There's several different things you could look at. He's not the first tackler, so there's no need for him to go into it. And secondly, he's just shoved his shoulder straight into the head. How that isn't a red card? Like, I've spoken to a few mates who are Cardiff fans, and they're like, "Yeah, that's there's no doubt. I don't even know how he stayed on." And if we keep on Timani and go later into the game, where I think it was Shingler, who literally just flipped upside down over a ruck and just let him go. And then you could hear Brian McNeice over the TMO going, "He's already on a yellow."
Yeah.
Just to tell you, you're sending him off, basically, just
Yeah.
reminding her, and then nothing came of it.
Yeah. But that wasn't the first time where she ignored the TMO in the game.
Yeah,
the
high tackle.
Yeah, but it was shortly after that Tamale tackle, and I think we were attacking down in the Cardiff 22.
Yeah, we were round day 5.
Yeah, and I think it was Jared Evans quite clearly took somebody out with a high tackle.
It was the seatbelt tackle, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it was definitely a yellow card offence because it was head contact. And it was 5 meters out or 10 meters out or whatever. So that's another penalty to us right down in their 22. But the TMO's trying to talk to it, but because she was talking to Josh Turnbull, then she didn't give it. And I thought the TMO should have, when they were lining up, so I think they cleared the ball, kicked it for a line out. I think the TMO was in his rights to say, okay, hang on a second, we need to come back. I need to show you something before we start the next phase of play.
If you could listen to her, when the ball went out and we were already at the line out ready, he said, "Oh, it's too late now." That's what the TMO said. And for him to say that when he knows he's being broadcast live and everyone's going to know this, it is never too late to go back for foul play.
I'm surprised he hasn't been cited for that, and Tamani be cited for the tip tackle on Shingler, because they're both dangerous.
I mean, I'm not happy with the state of the game at the minute, where if you get a yellow card in a game for head contact or whatever, that's the end of it. It needs to be, every single contact needs to be taken into consideration, even after the game. Like, even if it was detrimental to us, which obviously it can be quite easily, you can't let a player do that and then have no repercussions from it. Because 10 minutes on the side is not a repercussion for smashing someone's head off with your shoulder.
No. But then you've got the balance of that. Like, we had 2 yellows as well. So the first yellow was it Steph Thomas?
Yeah, he was the first one.
Yeah. So again, Cardiff supporters calling for red card on that, because it was head on head. And I'm thinking, well, I didn't have a problem with her consistency in reffing, in the sense that some of the decisions that she gave on that game, I've seen go the other way. I've seen the same decision go against us in other games.
Yeah.
So if you take Owen Williams' tackle on Costello being a yellow, that was similar to the was it Steph Thomas that got sent off?
Yeah.
So that was similar to Steph Thomas's tackle. And I just don't understand how, as a professional player, you can find yourself in a defensive position upright.
Right.
You're here like this, and you've got to come in low. So bare minimum, even if you're standing there doing nothing, stand there in a crouched position. do you know what I mean?
Having his flexed ready, like, just be bouncing on your toes.
So even if you fall forward here, not at his head. And that's the bit it was disappointing for me, because it was a stupid yellow card. I mean, Shingler's yellow card was pathetic, but it was a silly yellow card to give away. There was no need for him to give that. If he'd have just gone in a bit lower, he'd have been fine. It's
like, I agree 100% it was a yellow card offence. I haven't exactly looked at it close enough, because there is head contact, but it does look minimal. I'll say that. But when Wayne has told several times about consistency in reffing, we're not I know we want consistency match to match, but you want consistency throughout the same match as well.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
If you're going to judge that Timani's was a yellow, surely you should only judge that Steph Thomas was a penalty, because there's nowhere near the force.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it should have been a penalty. It's definitely a yellow card offence. But how can you argue that Timani's is exactly the same level?
Yeah, so I thought the same thing, that it was consistent, but consistently wrong. And I think that was the issue. So Shingler's yellow then, I mean,
we all know what he was doing. But how, I don't understand how the refs and the TMO can say that it was clear and obvious that that is what he was doing is beyond me, which is what the scope is. From those angles, I mean, he's not even directly looking. Okay, he is looking slightly down, but he's not looking at his feet, and he is literally shuffling his foot forward. I mean, yes, he's trying to stand on his foot, but at the same time, you can't say he was intentionally doing that from the camera angles. And was it who was it? Was it Thomas Young?
No, Thomas Young had gone off. It was Ellis Jenkins.
Ellis Jenkins, that's the one. How can you do something to Aaron Shingler for something like that and then not even look at the reaction? Because he got put on his ass off the ball.
Yeah, and he almost got tip-tackled when he did.
I wouldn't say. I mean,
he was, his hips were above his shoulder, mate. When he goes down, his hips are above his shoulder.
I was thinking of that instance then.
But that's what the consistency through the game, when you compare Shingler's yellow card with Tamani's yellow card, and you just think, hang on, seriously,
but it's not only that. If you think of the Shingler thing, where I couldn't see nothing clear and obvious to say he meant to do that. We know he meant to do it, but I couldn't see that he meant to do it. Then that's not clear and obvious. So surely you should have disallowed Jonathan Davis's try. You know what I mean?
For me, for Shingler to do that, though, it was stupid. We had Cardiff pinned in their 22. We're 2 minutes from time, 3 minutes from time, or whatever. Game's getting close. Game's getting tight. There's 6 points in it. You've got Cardiff pinned in their own 22. I think it was our scrum. There would have been our scrum from that breakdown. And you go and do that, and you're like, come on. It was silly. It was old school stuff that we need to get out of. We need to get that out of the heads that this is not what we do.
What?
Yeah, man.
You can tell you're back, man.
No,
look. I know you might think it's painful, but when you get raked on the back, I mean, it fires you up. It gets you going. I mean, it does. There is something, truly gory about, someone causing you pain and you firing up from it.
But then, as a professional player, you've got to have that cool head and just go, we're in a position here. We've got a bit of an iffy run. We've had one decent game against the Dragons, and now we could back that game up, and this could be it. So yeah, disappointing for me from that perspective. Apart from that, I thought Shingler had another excellent game. I really did.
Yeah.
He's not showing any sign of his age at all. He's like days of old. But yeah, to get to that stage and to do that was disappointing and infuriating for me watching it. I was just like, because like I said, we all knew what he was doing. He was trying to provoke a reaction. He got the reaction. He was the one that paid the price for it. So
yeah, just the wrong time. Different scenario.
Yeah.
Then maybe it would have been a smart decision. But when you are deep in the opponent's half, close to the end, you're leading. It's not worth it.
No. So let's talk about scrums then, because that was the one area that we struggled in that game. And we've been doing all right in scrums pretty much up till now. But Cardiff just took us apart in the scrum.
It was mainly, I don't like saying any one player was at fault, but Javan really struggled. And I know that Wainwright didn't have exactly the best of games in the scrum when he came on, but he held up a little bit better. But even though we were getting mullered, you could just see in them. You could just watch, if you watch it back and you look at the scrums, especially the ones where they get pinged for moving early or dropping to the knee. You can just see the way our players are shifting back slightly to try and influence that. Because it was more we're not going to win the scrum, but we need to be smart. We need to try and get away from this. And I probably led by Ken Owens more than anyone else because of his experience. But we were just tilting him back a little bit at the scrum to try and make it appear as though they're pushing early, and it worked. So that was brilliant. And I mean, I don't agree with. You're never going to agree with every decision from a scrum because you can't see both sides. So, but the one thing I will give Joy credit for the entirety of the game, she was very clear in her explanations. And if you look back and you watch it from her side, you can see where she's got those ideas from. Like our hip going to his knee a few times. You can clearly see it when the cameras are on it. He's going to his knee, and that's where they're doing it. Another one was where, who was it? I think might have been our hip again. It might have been later in the game. But it wasn't him coming in at the angle. I think it was Javan sort of turning himself in. So it should have been a penalty the other way. But you can see the angle of them driving, and you can understand why she's came to that decision.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing I will be positive about her. She was very clear in everything that she did.
I think that's the thing with scrums, though. I mean, most props haven't got a clue what's going on in the scrums. So for a referee to tell them this is what's happening, it is that, if even when you're propping yourself, you're still relying on your two members of the front row to kind of support you. You're relying on a flanker. You're relying on your second row to give you that support. Do you know what I mean? So there's so many factors that go into whether a scrum collapses or whether it stays up. It's just an absolute nightmare. So to be able to go, yeah, that was you, or that was your fault. It's not. It's never one person's fault in a scrum. It's always a combination of different things. So, but I agree. Her explanation and the way she was talking to players through the game was absolutely superb. And the little bits, the majority of that game, she got right. She was pretty much spot on. It was just some of the really big calls that kind of maybe should have gone differently. But like I said, we've been on the wrong end of it for so long. It was quite nice to be on the right end of a wrong call. So yeah, that's just
maybe we had the first season decisions going against us, and the second half decisions going for us. That's a nice way to think.
It's just a shame being so far away from we're still second in the table, second from bottom in the table. So to be that far away going into the second half of the season is a bit kind of disappointing more than anything, that there isn't really anything to play for.
We do have something in Europe, but yeah, knowing that, even looking at this statistically, like I said a few weeks ago after the Ospreys game, that this was our URC season over because we're not going to make the number of points that the 8th place team got last season. So I mean, we could get close. I'm not saying it's totally a foregone conclusion. It's like I said, there's no reason why we can't win every game, and we probably should have won with bonus points against the Dragons and Cardiff, and that would have been lovely. But at the same time, we're still talking about finishing at a similar sort of level to last season, and it's just because we've had so many downs in one hit that's made it feel worse. Like, so what have we got? We've got 5 wins and 8 losses. So if we were going like 2-1, 2 losses, 1 win, 1 loss, 1 win, it wouldn't feel as bad as what we're currently looking at.
Yeah, and I think it feels like we were talking last week about being honest with supporters and saying that we're looking now at next season and we're looking at developing players and things like that. It does feel a little bit like we are starting to look to the future. We saw Joe Roberts on Saturday. I thought Joe Roberts had an absolutely superb game. Dan Davis, Tupelo,
I really want to talk about Joe Roberts, just because okay, he's not the finished article yet. There were a couple of instances. If I look objectively at the game, Joe Roberts would have been my man of the match. There was one point early on where he strips Thomas Young of the ball, and then he just throws Ray Lilo off him as if he's not there. And it was just a brilliant all-round performance. Yes, he's not the finished article. There are some work-ons in there. But when we talk about young centres in Wales, like, I know we've seen a lot on Max Llewellyn from Cardiff, and we've seen a little bit on Mason Grady there as well. And when Mason Grady came on the pitch, he had a pretty good game. I'll say he was quite aggressive in what he done. But looking at all round, even including Joe Hawkins in this, I'd say probably Roberts is probably the most rounded player at the minute. Not to say that he'll stay there and he'll end up as the better of that quartet, but at the minute I'd probably say that he's got more in attack and is probably more solid in defence at the minute.
And I think when he's got someone like Jonathan Davis as a bit of a mentor, we've got Jonathan Davis and Scott Williams as, you know, mentors, coaches, however you want to do it. He's in the right place to develop as a player.
That is exactly the sort of performance I saw from a young Scott Williams. Like the 2012 England game, that sort of performance that Scott Williams put in off the bench, that was what I saw from Joe Roberts against Cardiff.
Well, I watched the Connectley and Ebervale game. It was on SWC on Thursday night. And so we've spoken a lot about Eddie James, you know, the centre coming through. I didn't realise how big Eddie James actually is.
I think he's like 6'4". He is massive.
It's huge. And he had a good couple of runs. There was one to set up the first Connectley try. It was 22. He took the ball in our own 22 and he just went on his own and had a bit of a jaunt up the pitch, and we ended up scoring a try off a 5-yard line out. But it was a good 70-meter run, and the boy looks big, he looks fast, and when you put him inside or outside Joe Roberts, I get the feeling that that's a combination that's going to be there for a long time. You know, in the same way that Scott Williams and Jonathan Davis kind of came through, developed together, and will probably retire together. I get that feeling from those two coming through. I think that'll be the combination for the future.
Yeah, I mean, Scott and they were such a mainstay for the entire decade, other than when they, went off, John went for some sun in France and someone brainwashed Scott for a few years.
Yeah.
I mean, thankfully we fixed that. But no, there was another, I think he was on the wing for Clonethley, Iestyn William. He's another one who plays in the centre as well. And he's a smaller player, but he's really fast. And if we're looking at the Clonethley game from Thursday night, I know it was a loss and it's not exactly a big thing because we are Scarlets, but Clonethley isn't exactly, high up on the priority list. But performances from the likes of Sam Connor, they were really impressive.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's time now to start looking at how we bring these. Well, I think that's what he will do. He'll bring these players through between now and the end of the season, and then that long off season. There's talk of not like a second team cup, but like a development cup.
Like the Rainbow Cup sort of thing, is it?
Yeah, but for development sides, it would be a development sides who are only allowed so many first team players and so many development players, that kind of thing. I saw it. I'm not sure if it was somebody just going, this would be a good idea, or if it was somebody saying this has come from the URC as a start to the season or whatever. But something like that for us, I think, would be really good. It would bring on a lot of players.
Yeah, I think if they add like an A league, a reserves league, then directly beneath, and they just played the day after whenever we played. So we all travel out together as a team. I think that would be a good idea as well.
We shall see. So
Dreamland.
So let's talk about this Friday then. So it's a bit of a short turnaround for the opening game of the next round of European Cup games on Friday. Is it 8 o'clock?
I'm not sure. Not Fridays are normally 7:35, but I know Europe is a little bit different, so we'll have to.
I think we kick off at 8, and the Dragons are kicking off at 9, which is just a dumb time to kick off. But
in the middle of winter.
Yeah, but it's out in Po. Dragons are out in Po, so.
Oh, so that means they got a bit of warmer weather, and it's.
Yeah.
It'd probably be this. What is that? 9 o'clock our time or 9 o'clock their time?
I think it's 9 o'clock our time, but I'm not. All I've seen is it's 9 o'clock. So, but that's for Dragons to worry about. So, what you hoping for from this week's game?
I'm hoping for continued improvements that we have seen probably over the last 5 weeks, and we did really well out in Italy against the South African Cheetahs. So and they haven't played. I don't think they've played any games. They have no league games. I don't know if they've had any sort of friendlies to keep them warm or nothing like that. So realistically, they are going to be colder than what they were in the first game. So realistically, we are on an upward trend. It is so weird for them to be involved in this. I mean, I can totally understand the Stormers, Bulls and that, but to bring in a side that hasn't got a league competition running alongside it, I think you're asking for problems, really. But yeah. I'm expecting another bonus point win and just another good all-round performance and hopefully another step in the right direction.
I think the reason they're in is because they want to bring another South African side into the URC. I think that's why they're there. And I think they want to prove that they can play a game, or they want to join the Australian league or Japanese league, or do you know what I mean? I think they want to prove that they can be a team still and play in a competition. So I think that's why they're there. But
there's no reason why they can't. I just don't understand. I mean, South Africa have basically stuck their two fingers up to Australia and New Zealand with the decision to join the URC. So, and I think we've got too many teams in it as it stands. I'm very old-fashioned. I like my good old round-robin home and away fixtures. So, I just don't see how it's going to work if we had another team. I mean, I probably like it to split it into 2 divisions and maybe get some teams from Eastern Europe, Georgia, Romania, maybe even Spain and Portugal to join.
Yeah. And I think that's probably, 5-6 years down the line, how it'll end up. I think there'll be two divisions of 10 teams in each division. I think that's where it'll end up. But who knows? So, I'm expecting the same thing. I'm hoping for a really aggressive start up front. I think if we can get on the scoreboard in the first 5-10 minutes, it does seem to settle the nerves. It does seem to kind of dictate the way we play the game. Then I think when sides get on top of us early, we do seem to struggle. Yeah. So I'm hoping that we can, really come out all guns firing, put them to the sword for the first 10-15 minutes, wrap up a bonus point before half time, and then just work on, some of the development bits after that.
I get what you're saying. Is as though they need that mental thing of knowing we can score, whether it's 3 points or a try. Yeah. Once we know we can score, we're sorted.
Yeah, and I think there's also, a couple of players there that are pushing for Welsh places. So people like Patch, possibly Johnny McNichol, as a cover for the back line. I don't think Jonathan Davis will get a recall, if I'm honest. I think he's playing the best rugby he has done for a couple of years. But if you listen to his after-match comments, and they said, does it make a difference with Warren Gatland being in the stands watching? And he said, no, I'm playing for the Scarlets, and Scarlets is everything to me. So, I think that's his mentality now. And I think that's a massive benefit for us.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, with the current state and the fact that we know Gatland likes big players, playing Jonathan Davis as a 12, not a 13, because he does struggle at 13 in the URC. He's not going to have chance of being 13 in the international game anymore. But as a 12, is he capable? Yeah, I have no doubt that he's capable of a 12. But whether or not is obviously is completely out of our hands. Like I've seen loads of articles calling for Kieran Williams to be called up. And whilst, I don't disagree, he's an attacking threat. But I personally, I mean, other people may be different, but I haven't seen enough from his defensive game. And that might just be because I don't watch all of the Ospreys games.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that until they get put in a position and never really go. Nobody really knew about Nick Tompkins until he got put in, got thrown into it and actually turned out to be quite a decent player, So,
oh God, Tompkins was bashing it out at Saracens for about a season and a half before he got his call. He was already rated a quality player, like he was on England's radar before we came calling.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. In Wales, we wouldn't have seen him that much. We wouldn't have been that because he's not in the URC and things like that. Unless you're watching the Gallagher Premiership every week, you wouldn't have known for definite that he was a good player. So, do you see anyone else getting a call up? Do you think anyone else is quite close?
Oh, let's have a look. I mean, I've been thinking Combi has been close for about a season, but he's been ill for the last couple of weeks, so that probably hasn't done his chances any good. Personally, Black has got to be starting 9. I know we had a couple missed kicks on the day, but you didn't see Thomas Williams at all in that game. He outshone him 110%. I'll be honest, not so much involved in the match day, but I wouldn't be surprised if either Tua Pilotu or Dan Davis got called up just to be in that training squad, because they are exactly the type of player that Gatland likes, big and abrasive.
Yeah.
I don't really see anyone else looking at the whole landscape of Welsh rugby. I mean, Joe Roberts is obviously in with a chance, but I'm really hoping that he stays with us, because I think, like, I've got no problem with players if they're good enough, they're young and they're ready or whatever. But I still like players to have a full season with the club before they bugger off. Like, I know, because I can remember even when George North, we're talking back in 2010 now, when he got picked up for the autumn series after starting 6 games for the Scarlets. I was thinking, yeah, he's really good, but realistically, you want to let him bed in time. I know we worked out massively well with him, but it doesn't always work out that way with players.
Sometimes it can work the other way, can't it?
Yeah, like Tom Pridey was one who got thrown in stupidly young when he wasn't exactly ready for it. Another one who was in the Wales squad that wasn't ready was Christian Phillips, really young again. And it just seems that, look, I know you want to get these players in as early as you can, but at the same time, you want to make sure that they can be consistent first.
Yeah. And I think, Gatland's got to be looking at the World Cup, and this is a development towards a World Cup and things like that. So is he going to look at a lot of players, or is he going to pretty much stick with players that he's already seen and knows already? So, yeah, I don't think there'll be a massive amount of change, in all honesty. I don't think there'll be a lot of new players coming in. I think Combia may well make it, because, like you say, he is a Gatland style winger, and with Reece Zammit being not available potentially for quite a bit of it, I think he may come in as cover with Josh Adams. So I saw in the press today that Wyn Jones may well be available for selection for Cheetahs game, which, coming back in will be just adds another international to the set, which I think is good for us. We need the more players like that we've got coming back, the better. I can't see Samson Lee coming back ever sometimes, but
no, I'm with you 100%. As much as I would love to see Samson on the pitch, he never got back up to the standard after his first Achilles injury and now another one. It's heartbreaking for the lad because he's so down to earth and he's such a good person. Or it is disheartening, but we've got some good young tight heads now, so fingers crossed that side is sorted. Wyn Jones, yeah, Andy Phillips. I haven't seen the full interview, I can't find it anywhere, but there have been some snippets saying that he's in full training, available for selection, so that's brilliant. And one thing I will say about Wyn Jones is he is a brilliant role model. Like I know there's only like 5 years between him and some of the younger loose heads that we got, but every time I've been around the park, gone to the club shop or done wherever, he's always either with Stefan Thomas or Kemsley Mathias. He's always with one of them talking.
Yeah.
So yeah. I just think that's brilliant from him. And being a player, I know you can teach, like you can have the best scrummager in the world be your coach, but there's nothing like them starting and then coming off and telling you exactly what's happening and what you need to do. And it is massive for your game as a prop to understand that sort of thing. Because if you're told you need to do this, okay, you're going in and then you're experiencing what your opposition is doing to you. And then if I do this, that works. And it's massive in a learning curve.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, we have started to kind of really focus on, when you look at the academy boys now, you look at how many props we've got coming through academy, and a lot of those props are working with what's his name? And Phil John. Phil John is in academy, so there's a lot of knowledge about how to prop and what the front row is all about. It's just one of those areas in Wales that we're not particularly strong on, and we just we seem to develop people and then they get injured and then they disappear, so
yeah. Just while his name has been mentioned, Phil John, for the younger viewers or listeners, I should say, Phil John is the unluckiest man in Wales to never get a Welsh cap.
Oh, he should have been capped so many.
He should have had a dozen or more caps. He was outstanding. Yeah.
And he was just so dominant around the pitch because he's a big guy. He's like 6'1", 6'2", but he looks like a prop. He's got that round shoulders. He's got the strength. And he was, I don't know how he never got selected, but big benefit for the Scarlets. And I'm good. I'm happy that he's in the setup still, because he is a good coach. Even my boy's a winger, and my boy still talks to Phil about about the mentality, about the mindset, about how you approach a game, about your fitness, and he has a laugh with him and a joke with him, and he's a really nice guy to be around. So fair play.
And as a winger, you do need to talk to forwards to learn how to tackle.
Well, let's come on to the under 18s then, because so let's do predictions anyway. Let's do predictions for the Cheetahs game. I'm going to say Scarlets by 20.
Oh, you're not going for exact scoreline. That's
well, I'm going to go. Let's say 30 points to 10. There we go. Bonus point win, 30-10.
I'm going to go 42-15.
Okay, fair enough. So we're close. It's a kick in and a half for the Cheetahs from somewhere. Okay, so let's look at the under 18s just briefly, and then we'll do some local stuff. So went to watch the under 18s against Newport last Wednesday, which was a really good game. Wind was on the training park, and the wind was coming from the top end down. We're kind of blowing into the bottom corner, I guess, at a bit of an angle, but it was definitely blowing that way. And I said when we played against Cardiff, strong wind there, we didn't play very well. with the wind, we didn't play well against the wind. This time, we absolutely nailed it. And I've got to be fair to our forwards. They were outstanding, because this is a Newport side that won the championship last year. Got a lot of big, strong boys in there, and they just had nothing from us. There were maybe 3 or 4 entries into our 22, and a couple of them were from our mistakes. They had 1 penalty, and then there was, like, at the end of the first half, they had us pinned on our own line, but we kept it. We held them out, and I think we held them up over the line, and then it was half time. So, you know, the boys played really well. Our back row is absolutely awesome. You know, all 3 of them, they're like a pack of rats across the pitch. They're just onto everything. They really are. And nobody gets anything out of them at all. So I was really, really impressed. It was a comfortable win for the 18s. Some decent performances. But yeah, it was just nice to watch a game where we just felt in control of that game. And yeah, fair play to them. They did really, especially compared to last season, where just everything, we were trying stuff last season and nothing was working, and we were getting bullied off the ball and stuff. This season, we're much more on it and very much in control of the game. So yeah, boys did well last week on that one.
And now on to tonight.
So tonight they got Ospreys away. So I did say I was going to be at this game, so I would stream it, which I kind of got permission for. Because it's a fan page, so it's not like we're broadcasting it as a broadcaster or anything. You know, it would be off my phone, but I can't make it tonight because the boy's not well, so he won't be there, so I won't be there, so I can't do it tonight.
Oh, he's not going, is he?
No, he picked up a nasty infection that just needs to kind of
I know he's got an infection. I know he's got a bit of infection. He can't play, but surely he should be on the sideline supporting his teammates.
He's not allowed to be around people, mate. So
genuine. Nice.
It's infectious. So he's just playing caution more than anything. But hopefully he'll be back next week. And next week's game, if I remember correctly, is RGC away, so it's the Sunday after. So yeah, that gives us all a bit more time to do that one.
Whilst we're on the subject of the under-18s, I've had the club list through from the Scarlets, because when they put up the normal announcement, they only some of them had clubs, and there's a massive representation from Pembrokeshire in there. I think there's 4 Narberth boys, 3 Crimich. Yeah, and who else was there? There was another 3 from Aberystwyth. That's it. And if you include
a couple of Fishguard boys as well, I think.
Yeah, and if you include Whitland in that, I think they got 2 players. So you know, there's a big contingent of talent coming out of Pembrokeshire and Ceredigion, which is obviously it's good to see, because the pathway in those 2 counties specifically is a lot more difficult than further east. Once you get into Carmarthenshire, the opportunities seem to be a bit more there, and then obviously it carries on all the way down through Newport. So to see that sort of representation at this age is brilliant.
Well, one of those players makes his first start this evening, which is outside half Fraser Jones from Narberth. So he used to play inside centre and Yola was outside centre, and they were absolute nightmare together. They just ripped through everything. And as a 10, I really like Fraser as a 10, because he can hoof a ball in a way that he's a bit like Patch. He kicks it and you're going, still going.
He'll kick it dead from his own 22.
Oh, the guy can just belt it, especially bit of a win tonight again, and on top of that as well, he is a good controller of the game. He is a good controller. So he comes in at 10 and Steph Evans moves to 15, and then Fuller moves from 15 to the wing. So, there's a couple of other changes in there, but I'll be honest, I don't know the players well enough to say this one's in and this one's out. But the back row looks fairly familiar, and the bench does as well. So, so players' names that I recognise from Pembrokeshire would be Max Page at 13, Fraser at 10, Jack Delaney on the bench, and I've probably missed a couple of others, but I don't know who. In all honesty, I think no. Anyway, I think Josh Morse rings a bell, but I think that's just because I saw him from last year. Anyway, boys are playing away Ospreys tonight, Brewery Field, 7:15. So if anyone is available and wants to go and have a watch, this is probably the toughest game of the season in terms of the boys up front. I know we're missing a couple of boys up front, but this is the big challenge up front. When we play Cardiff again, we'll take Cardiff, and we should have beaten them up there, beaten the Dragons quite comfortably. This is the big game for them, and if they can win this one, then it's all looking good for the rest of the season. So,
good.
Yeah. And so I know there's a couple of the 18s listening, because I've had that feedback. So I've asked Scarlett about putting photos on the website to fill in the under 18 section. They are working on it. They've got the photos. They did the photos at the start of the season, but they are working on it. There's a technical glitch. I don't know what that is, but
that's lingo for they haven't got around to it yet. You'll be done when it's done.
Yes, somebody's changed their phone and it's stuck on their old phone. No, so they are working on it. So hopefully we'll be able to see some of the faces, because these are the boys of the future. These are the boys of the future. You know, the way the game is going, the big name players coming in from abroad, from the Fijians, the New Zealanders, the Tongans, that's highly likely to dry up, and it'll all be internal development stuff. So, these are the boys in 5 years' time that are going to be making their mark on. Yeah,
because even looking over the border, the salary caps have been reduced. There's talk of a salary cap in this new agreement with the WRU. So the days of the journeyman from abroad seem to have basically gone, unless you're a proven, probably not international, but of that standard, you're not going to be allowed a contract, never mind, being in with a shout to one.
Yeah. So, so good luck to under 18s tonight, and then hopefully next week I'll have a bit of a match report from that anyway. So lovely. Right, let's do Pembrokeshire stuff, mate. Let's do Pembrokeshire. Let's rattle through Pembrokeshire, because I didn't get to do the rundown, the scoreboard rundown, because I was watching the Scarlets play and having a drink. It's what I was doing. I'm at the end of my Christmas beer, so somebody's got to get rid of it somewhere,
I'll just save it for another time,
I'm going on a diet in February. I've decided I'm not going to start my diet in January, because I got so much stuff left from Christmas. I'm going to start it in February. I've now got to get rid of all of this stuff. So I've got to eat a ton of chocolate, a ton of Christmas biscuits, and a load of Christmas beer before 1st of February. So, and then I'm going on a diet.
I'm exactly the same as you, mate. Where, January it's not my New Year's at all. I keep everything for February. It's like, St. Twin Wednesday. I can have a good bloody, night out with the missus and whatever. And then when February comes, everyone who started, their month in the gym and given up after the first week or so, they've all drained out. So, if I do decide to do anything, it's a lot calmer.
Yeah, February's a good month to start stuff. Yeah. Anyway,
February's a new year.
Yeah, so February's the new January.
So, you come to Wales, February the 1st is the new year.
Right, so let's have a look. In the championship last week, Narberth played Tata Steel. They won quite comfortably, 43-0, which is what we were expecting. Lovely jubbly. This week, they're away to Ystrad Rhondda.
It's a repeat of the first game of the season. No, it wasn't a big win. I think it was 16-10 the first game. And, I'm pretty much expecting them, if they really want to push on and try and, fight for that third spot. I know they've got, Bargoed, Cross Keys and all that involved, so it's not going to be easy. But if they do want to fight on, they've got to at least get the win down against Ustrad. And, it's not a bad field. It's right next to the leisure centre, so plenty of parking, thankfully, as long as they haven't got something going on. But yeah, it's not too bad. The only thing you've got to watch out though is if you kick down the bottom end, the train tracks are right behind and they've got nothing to block it, just a couple of trees. Nothing, so you boot that over, it's hell of a job to get it back.
Well, Narberth are fifth in the table. Ystrad Rhondda are sixth in the table. So there's really not much between them. There's 3 points difference between them.
That first game of the season between them.
Yeah. So if Narberth can nick a win here, that puts them in a really good position for this last bit of the season. Like I say, it's going to be, there's a group of three of them. There's Narberth, Cross Keys and Bargoed. So Bargoed 34 points, Cross Keys 32 points, Narberth 31 points. Yeah, well, that's quite close. That's a tight kind of section of the table. So they may well be in with a shout or something. So yeah, I'm going to go for a Narberth win by 1 point. I think 20 points to 19, something like that.
I'm back in Narberth as well, and with obviously no confirmed information about promotions working, we know at least 2 teams are going up from the championship this year. But the 12th team in the Premiership might have a playoff with the third in the championship. So that could be on the cards. So third place is very much worth your money to try and get a hold of.
Yeah, and it's all about development now, isn't it? Going forward, it's how those boys develop. So yeah, best of luck to Otters for the weekend. So looking at 1 West then, so we were hoping for Pembroke's first win of the season, and they lost 55-18 against Newcastle. They're starting to score points, but it's that's the only real positive. And the report from the game, I've seen the Emlyn report from the game, and they've said, it was a tough game. It was competitive. Sometimes the scoreline doesn't necessarily reflect the game, but 55-18 is a bit of a kick in the arse. So yeah, but onwards and upwards. Never mind. We go again next week. Cleckley Wanderers drew 15-0 with Aberystwyth.
Yeah, that was a massive disappointment for me. I mean, Aberystwyth. I know I said I might have gone over. I was considering it, but it was a bit of a dreary day. And 200 meters is a long walk. But, but no, I was fully expecting Aberystwyth to put Llanelli Wanderers away, and I'm really upset they haven't.
Well, Crymych did put Pencloud away, 25-17. So that was a decent win for them. That keeps them top of the table. But again, they're 33 points. Emlyn are on 30 points, and Emlyn have got a game in hand. So, who knows? Whitland, I think, I can't see a result for Whitland.
I've had Whitland's result, I think. Or was it postponed?
I think it was postponed, It must have been postponed.
It had been postponed. Yeah, let's go with postponed.
Yeah, because, but anyway, so fixtures for this week then. So this is probably the tie of the whole bloody setup. Crymych in first place, Newcastle Emlyn in second. So with Crymych at home, Newcastle to Newcastle Emlyn, local derby, lot of rivalry. It's going to be a nightmare for the weather because it's Crymych and it's going to be bad weather as well. How are you calling this one?
I mean, we've got to back Crymych. I mean, the top of the table for a reason. Newcastle Emlyn are hot on their heels. This is top of the table. Could be, early season league decider. that's the sort of match that we're looking at. So I'm backing Crimmock. It's going to be a close game. I got no doubt about that. But Crimmock are going to edge it.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a close game. You wouldn't want to be a winger in that game because you're going to be frozen solid and never going to see the ball because it's all going to be two sets of forwards just beating each other up for at least 50 minutes of that game. But it's going to be a good game, and I'm going to go Crimmock to edge it by a couple of points as well. So 2018, something like that, I think. But yeah, looking forward to reading the report on that one. Next up, then Pembroke travel to Llangennech. Oh, here we go again.
Llangennech are another one. They still in that mix for top spot. There's. I wanted Pembroke to pick up the first win against second place Newcastle Emlyn. So third place Llangennech. It should be an easy one, shouldn't it?
Yeah, and especially going away to Llangennech is. I'm going to predict a Pembroke win by 1 point, or let's say 3-0. Pembroke will win 3-0 with a penalty or something. But yeah,
I want to win this week. I want to win this week, so I'm going to go for Llangennech.
Okay. Aberystwyth travel to Pencloud.
Aberystwyth.
Yeah, I can't see Pencloud troubling them particularly on that. So it's particularly coming off the back of a draw that they felt they should have won. Yeah, I think that's Aberystwyth by 5 points, maybe 10 on that one. Should be quite comfortable. And then Whitland at home to Vellinvoyle.
Ooh, that's tasty as well, to be fair. I mean, Vellinvoyle, they're not quite in the hunt for top spot, but they are up the top end of the table. So, I'm probably going to have to give it to Vellinvoyle unless Whitland can, turn up. Because we're still waiting for them to turn up this season.
We're still waiting, and it's been a while since we have been waiting for them to turn up.
We're in the second half of the season now, man.
I know, and I always expect more from Whitland. And it's a real disappointment to not have more from Whitland this season. But yeah, I'll go on Vellinvoyle as well. I just can't see Whitland pulling one out of the bag there. But there we go. But then I can't see Pembroke pulling them out of the bag either. It's just hope more than anything with that. So down into 2 West then. Results from last week. Fishguard lost 37-17 at Kidwelly. Milford lost 39-7 at Mumbles. And Tenby lost 24-17 to Pontedillice, which bit of a crap week all round, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, Fishguard and Tenby, fair enough. They are facing, I think it's 1 and 2 in the table.
Yeah.
So it was always going to be difficult. But, Milford, I was really hoping for a Milford win. I mean, they were in a similar area to Mumbles on the table. But obviously, they didn't manage to pull it off.
Yeah. I just, for whatever reason, I was hoping for more from Tenby. I'll be honest, I thought Tenby could have taken them, but there we go. So, fixtures for this weekend then. Milford travel to Carmarthen Athletic. So that's another one. Second from bottom plays third from bottom. So
you got to back Milford then, haven't you? If there's no clear difference, we got to say Milford for the win.
Yeah, I'm going to go Milford for that one as well. Fishguard travel to Mumbles. So again, mid-table.
I'm hoping for Fishguard. They're a good side. They're in contention to actually, leapfrog Tenby now. So, they're not too far off being the best Pembrokeshire side in the league.
Well, we're Fishguard on Fishguard are on 16 points, Tenby on 24. But then Fishguard got 2 games in hand on Tenby. So,
they're not too far off. They could do it.
So you're going for a Fishguard win, are you?
Yeah.
On that one? Okay. I'll join you on that one because I think it's going to be a close game. Mumbles are ahead of them in the table, but if Fishguard can pull out those 2 games that they got in hand on everyone, if they win them, then they're back level. So yeah, I'm going to Going to back Fishguard on that one. And then Tenby at home to T. Croix. So,
yeah, should be a Tenby win, I'm hoping.
Yeah, Tenby are 4 places ahead of T. Croix in the table. Probably, coming off last weekend, they felt that they should have done better. But yeah, I'm going to go for a comfortable Tenby win on that one as well. Right, where are we now? 3 West. Let's have a look at 3 West.
3 West A.
3 West A. I don't know why they even bother having a B. I think there's a lot of Leslie sides in B, isn't there?
Yeah, it's like the west side and the east side, west versus west east.
Ridiculous. Right. So last week's games then. Quins against Aberaeron was called off because of the Aberaeron pitch. I saw a lot of games being called off around the country, to be honest. Most of the Pembrokeshire games happened, which is good. So Nayland travelled to Cardigan and dished out a 20 points to 3 hammering. In Cardigan, Langham received a 64-6 beating off St Clair's. And then the other game was St David's and Haverfordwest, which is a bit closer. Haverfordwest came out on top of that 21-11. And by all accounts, I think St David's were in the lead going into half-time. And then Haverfordwest came back, but quite a good game by all accounts. Not seen anything with regards to fancy dress, which a bit disappointing, but there we go. So, games for this weekend then. Aberaeron at home to Tregaron.
Simple.
Yeah.
Tregaron, and they're not even playing this year, are they?
Well, let's see. They've only played 6 games. So it does look like, I think you've got to fulfill 80% of your games to be allowed to re-enter next season. So Tregaron are in a bit of a sticky ground, and I think a lot of the teams that are with games in hand have got Tregaron in those games. So Aberaeron at home to Tregaron, that's an Aberaeron win. Cardigan at home to Pembroke Quins. Might be an
home
interesting
advantage, does it? I say.
Yeah, so 1, 2, 3. So Quins are 4th from bottom, Cardigan 5th from bottom, but Quins have got 2 games in hand over Cardigan, and if the Quins win those 2 games in hand, they'd be up with Nayland then. So 1, 2, yeah, they jump 2 or 3 places.
This is all fictional land. This is if no one else plays any games in the meantime.
Yeah, I'm going to go for a Quins win there. I just think that they're.
I'm going Cardigan. Home advantage. We'll see them through.
Okie dokie. So then we got Larne at home to St David's.
I was really encouraged by St David's performance. Like, Haverfordwest are, a top end team in this league. But, Larne are, I don't think they're not undefeated anymore. They lost to St Clair's.
Yeah.
They're just too strong at the minute. So as much as I'd like St David's to win, I just can't see it happening. Sorry.
Yeah, and I'm in the same boat. I think Larne have had a bit of a wobble. I think they're putting the wheels back on now. So I'm expecting quite a comfortable bonus point win for Larne. I think it'd be a 40-odd 10, something like that. It's just going to be one of those games. So interesting game next. Langham against Lampeter. Lampeter second from top. Langham second from bottom.
Lampeter still unbeaten?
No, they've lost 1. So I think they lost to St Clair's because St Clair's is the only team unbeaten so far. So
it must be. So Langham, I'm going to walk over them easy. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, if there's going to be a shock, that's where the shock's going to come, innit? It's it's going to be an easy Lamper to win on that one for me. Nayland travelled to Llanybother. So
Nayland have been doing pretty well recently. In all fairness, like I didn't expect them to do over Cardigan last week. So, Nayland for the win.
Yeah, and I think Llanybother are not really pushing on from where they were at the start of the season. Neyland have maintained an okay sort of form. So, yeah, that's going to be a Neyland win. And then final game then, St Clair's against Haverfordwest. So,
repeat of the opening day. Oh, Haverfordwest, they've got a lot to prove. If they want to be serious and carry on going upwards and onwards, I'm not going to say they're going to win it, because I think St Clair's are truly well and above everyone else this season. Yeah. But they've got to dig in and they've got to put in a good performance.
Yeah, I'd say the same. I think it should be a comfortable St Clair's win, which, for a side that didn't exist 20 odd years ago or whatever it was, to be in that bit where we're expecting them to beat sides like, Haverfordwest, Quins, Cardigan, sides that have been around a really, really long time. St Clair's, fair play to them, are doing really, really well. Unbeaten.
It's what you get when you invest in the setup. Like I said earlier in the season, they've got the Scarlet 16s West coach, Rodri Jones, as their head. When you invest in good coaching, you're going to get results. And that's really what everyone should look at doing. Coach development and player development is the bedrock of creating a good club.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I think it'll be a close game as well, but I think St Clair's will come out of it the victors on that one. So the only other bit left to say then is women's under 18s. So Scarlet's women's weren't playing last week, but they are playing this week. Where is it this week? It's in Llandudno on Sunday. So I think I had it up earlier. I can't remember who we're playing. I think we're playing Cardiff, but there's 4 teams all play same time. It's not round robin. Yeah. It's just 2 games, but yeah.
Yeah, so it's what they're doing this season. Instead of having home and away, they sort of have it in weekends or day festivals, like the day's fixtures in Llandudno. I know they're up in Parc Arias, and then they're going further east to the other fixtures. So it's a nice idea that all the girls are together for every single match day.
Yeah, and so I'm just trying to see if I can find the girls setup for. No, I can't find it. I've got it saved somewhere. I just can't find it at the minute. So it's in Llandudno this Sunday though. So if anyone's around, I'll put it on our Facebook page, and I think I've put it on there already actually. So it'd be good to get out and support the girls, because it is important to give them the encouragement that they need. And that is it, my friend. We are done for another week. Oh, we're not.
It's not it. I've got one little piece of news for all fans out there who are not already part of Crease 16, the Scarlet's official fan group. It's free to join. So, just type in Crease 16 to find it. The Meet the Management evening is almost penciled in. It's really close. So if you sign up, it should be either late this end of this month or beginning of February, and it'll be a free evening. You get to see all the coaches and ask whatever questions you want. So it's a good thing to do. If you've got any questions you want to ask, then by all means, once it's announced, send them in and you will get your answers.
And it'll be a lot easier. It'll be a lot easier on the coaches now than it would have been.
Yeah, I honestly think that's why it's waited so long. Because I think normally it's done similar time to the Meet the Players, which I think was back in October, November time.
Yeah.
But, I totally understand postponing it for a bit and, holding the Six Nations. It keeps a bit of interest in with the Scarlets when we're not playing that often, which is a big disappointment. I miss the good old days of having our, the Anglo-Welsh games. We need that second competition to, pull out our younger boys and give them that sort of game time.
Well, maybe we can talk through that when we hit Six Nations period in a couple of weeks' time. We've got a lot of stuff to go through, mate.
We've got so much. I think we've got something around 200 hours worth of content to go through. So it's just whether or not we can fit it in with the normal stuff.
Well, let's just add to our problems on that then. By say, if there's anyone that's got anything, any questions or anything they want to talk about during the Six Nations, where it'll be a little bit different format, a little bit different setup. So yeah, send them on email, or message us on Facebook or whatever, and we'll try and get them into the
yeah. And if any of you 18 boys, you want a little interview, if 5-10 minutes, nothing too serious, just a little talk about who you are, where you're from, how you're doing, drop us a message and we'll chuck you in. It'll be awesome.
Yeah. Well, I might, after the RGC away game, if Yolo's playing, I should be up there for that one, so I might do a couple of interviews after that. That'd be quite nice.
Yeah, get somebody coach reaction after the game from both sides.
They bugger off. They do the big huddle like that, yeah.
And then in their face and saying, "How did the game go?"
No, I'd ask Phil, and he go, he just slap me out the way, gone.
Nah, he chop your knees, he bend you over, get you in that scrummaging position, and he put you to the sword.
Yeah, I've done that once. That's enough. All right, all the best, Matt. I shall catch up with you next week, mate. Enjoy your rugby. All the best, bud. Ta-da. So just a quick little addendum to today's show. The under-18s game against the Ospreys has been called off due to a heavy pitch, bit of crazy weather up there. So if you were planning on going, don't. So cheers for that. Bye. You have been listening to the Westerer is Besterer podcast from the Scarlet Supporters Pems team. You can follow us on Twitter on Scarlet Pems, find us on Facebook with Scarlet Supporters Pembrokeshire, or email us on scarletspems@gmail.com. And remember, West is best, but Westerer is Besterer. Cheers.
Sports Social Podcast Network.